Okay, good. All right, so we'll start this meeting. April 8th, 2026. I believe the first item on the agenda is review of minutes. The first one from January 14. Did anybody have any notes or contention with those?
I didn't see anything. Except on the very last page of March 11th. I'm referred to as Mr. Wilson.
Which one is that? What page?
On the March 11th, page 2, the adjournment.
Seems to be a trend.
It does. What is it, Julie? At the bottom, adjournment, Mr. Berman made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Wilson. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's on the March 11 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, March 11th.
different
yeah.
minutes, different minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had two.
I have a bunch. I have a bunch,
January?
yes.
Oh.
They're very choosy. So on the first page under, I'll just start running through them. On the first page, under review of minutes, the third paragraph, it says page 1 under application A. Third line down. In a little bit, it says page 2nd near bottom. It should say page 2.
Oh, okay. Minutes, right?
Yes. And then at the bottom of page 2, under item B, Lee Sundrela's comments, the second line from the bottom of that paragraph, actually backing up a little bit more, where it says, Ms. Sundrela said the board needs to look at this issues as if they are seeing it for the first time. So it should be this issue or these issues, one or the other. And then the next sentence there is worded awkwardly. The board needs to look at this specifically from the city ordinance and the preservation guidelines. Reword that to something like this specifically from a city ordinance and preservation guideline perspective. It's just worded strangely. We're just getting started, so everyone,
Goodness.
just hold on. Top of page 3. This whole paragraph, not the whole paragraph, but a lot of it is awkward and doesn't make sense. So, interviews for the 13 historic task force representatives. And then it says the majority of the applicants are citizens. There will be 5 of those applicants are citizens. So that's worded strangely. And then it says 1 from the Planning Commission, 1 from the Freedmen's Arts District, 1 from the Historic Review Board, and 1 from Historic Beaufort Foundation. That adds up to 4, not 5.
Aren't we all citizens also?
Well, they're citizens. I think what you're trying to differentiate is that there's 13 representatives, and the majority of those are not associated with any particular board or nonprofit. And then there's 4 or 5 that are associated with a board or nonprofit, and then it spells it out as Freedmen's Arts District, Planning Commission, et cetera. So there's just some incongruencies between, is it 4, is it 5? what, so I just think those, all of that just needs to be reworked to make sense. Okay, now on to the March minutes. Sorry. It says, under A, the item A, middle paragraph, the applicant is requesting conceptual approval. You see that? My recollection, Rita and Kim, is that they were actually asking for final.
Yeah, they were.
They were asking for final,
They were,
right?
you're right.
So I think they were asking, that needs to be changed to show that the applicant was requesting final. And we did not grant them final, but we did grant them conceptual. Because I remember we had a whole thing. All right, on the next page, this would be a continuation of item A, but towards the top of the next page, under motion, Ms. Wilson made a motion to grant conceptual approval, et cetera, et cetera. The second from bottom line, I'll continue from the previous, and that the applicant coming back to the board with the elevations of the fencing screening of the outdoor freezer. So there's just a couple typos there. Applicant coming, that should become COME, back to the board with elevations. You can just remove the word and then fencing should just be changed to fence. And then item B, I think item B was the one that we did not hear.
Right.
Right,
Right.
we didn't have a quorum.
But the last sentence, 2-car garage, a pool house, pool/guest house, together with improvements to hard dash slash. What's that? Okay. So I think it should just be probably just changed to hardscaping and landscaping is probably what they're getting at there. I don't know how much that one matters because we tabled that one basically. And then at the bottom of that page, this is more of a question, maybe for you folks. Where it go, after the motion's made for item C, then the last two paragraphs, Mr. Sutton reminded the members to sign up for the preservation conference, and then below that, Mr. Freeze reminded the members. Should that fall under a different section that's, miscellaneous business? Because miscellaneous, because right now it looks like it's a continuation of item C.
Oh, good point.
Just to make it clear that because it has nothing to do with item C. And I think those are all my corrections.
You get a gold star, Eric.
I just think that's it. Okay. So for both January and March, you'll abstain, right? Because you weren't here for those two. But we could vote on approving them with those corrections, yeah?
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion to do that?
I make a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections from Mr. Berman and Ms. Wilson and Ms. Petrella.
I'll second that motion.
Excellent.
Second, I mean, not
We'll vote
second,
with you.
but vote aye.
Aye. Excellent. Okay, so both of those approved with those corrections? Okay, so now we can move on to the first item, business, the first application, 1411 North Street. And you're recusing, Ms. Petrella's recusing herself for this one.
Okay, this is a number of requests. I think everybody's kind of let's just show the house first. I think everybody's probably seen this house. It's somewhat iconic in town there. It's on North Street. But the applicant's doing, I guess, a number of renovations. So some accessory structures, some major landscaping renovations, and just a bunch of stuff in between. So some general information. This is in the T4 HN Historic District. It's the Emil Lengnick House. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's kind of a Victorian kind of house that I don't think you see very often in the city. And I think it was previously used for a bed and breakfast, if I understand correctly. But essentially the applicant is asking for a 2-car garage, a pool house and guest house, an in-ground pool, and quite a bit of landscaping as well.
Can I pause you right there?
Sure.
Are you guys seeing anything on your screens?
No,
Do we have someone where's tech support? Oh, there we go.
thanks.
Okay.
Got it.
Excellent. Okay, keep
He's
going.
got
Thank
it.
you.
It's amazing.
Tech support.
Who'd believe that we could do that? They've been to 3 HTRC meetings, so that have spanned almost a year. So this is kind of a big project, as you can imagine, with the amount of stuff that is being done. So the applicant is an architect, and I think he's and we're really, I think, to the purpose of this meeting is conceptual approval. So again, you've got the in-ground pool, the pool house, the 2-car garage, the brick piers, the landscaping. All of these things are for conceptual approval, although, as I'll get into, a few of them have been completed already. So just so you're aware. But they've been to 3 HTRC meetings, and you have the kind of extensive notes from those and an action summary that we gave to the applicant for each one. Location, this is on the corner of kind of North Street as you're coming into the city, really. I think everybody kind of knows where it is, but already talked about that a little bit. This is kind of what it looked like in May 2023 before the renovations. I think this is the picture from the 1979 historic survey. You can see that it looks kind of similar to what it did in 2023. So we'll just go into each item individually. And again, in your packet, they're all addressed individually. But at the end, the conceptual approval that he's looking for is all combined. So we'll go through each one separate. It's in the packet separate, but at the end, it's combined. So there's some proposed hardscape improvements, kind of a brick pathway or pavers up to the house and behind the house as well. Also the which you can see on the red there, they put these brick piers in.
Is this indicating on the bottom right of the screen that those existing brick pavers on the?
Those were the existing, on the bottom
Those will
right.
be replaced, or
Those
that
will be
it's gonna
replaced,
be
yeah.
moved?
They're being slightly moved, but I think that's
left.
already done from what I understand. And that was kind of just an administrative decision, just because there's just a small brick paver behind the house. But the brick piers that you see on the front are new and have been installed. So as you can see on the inventory picture and this 2023 picture, they did not exist before. So that is something that, they're 4x8. So just a thought, they've been painted white, I guess, to match the house, but they were done without a COA. Okay, some other landscape improvements. They're preserving the live oak tree, and they're planning quite a bit of landscaping around the yard, especially on Monson Street to kind of provide some buffer area. Some of that has been done, I believe. So, and you can obviously ask the applicant about some of that work. But again, the brick paver on the rear that we previously discussed has been moved slightly and been repaired. But that did receive a COA. Then next we have the 2-car garage that'll be off of Monson Street. It's behind the main house. You can see it here. It does meet all of our zoning requirements. There's an existing gravel driveway. It's already there, so there's already that curb cut, meets the 50% accessory dwelling requirement or garage requirement, and we think it does a good job of incorporating the kind of the Victorian design of the main house through the roof and materials, as you can see on the screen. So we think he did a good job of being subordinate to that kind of iconic house in front of it. Then we have the pool house / guest house and the pool, which also has a deck around it. So this is, as you can see, is off of North Street. So again, the two-car garage was off of, off of Monson Street. This is off of North Street. And you can kind of see the image there, the elevation that the applicant did that shows you what it'll look like. The pool house, meets the placement and guidelines of zoning. You can do 2 accessory units, and 2 accessory buildings in your house, any primary structure with the zoning that we have. It has a bedroom and 2 bathrooms with direct access to the pool. It still meets, even with all these additions, it meets lot coverage requirements. And as you can see, I think it also is like an homage to the, architecture of the existing structure, which is, if I didn't mention it before, which I might not have, it's a contributing structure. It has been for some time. And so that's kind of a summary of everything. So there's quite and the pool, the pool is in front of the pool house. And there's quite a bit of screening that's going to be done and fencing in front of that pool. So you can kind of see that fence that's on the elevation that'll screen the pool. There's also, the pool code requires latching gates and a fence around any new pool. It's not a giant pool, but it is kind of to the kind of subordinate, but still kind of in that side yard, front yard of the main house with the pool house behind it. So all of these things, since you have purview over, so the garage, the brick piers, the other landscaping, the fencing. Fencing's under, it's 4 feet. It would meet our code. The pool house, et cetera, all these things are kind of, and they're also phased, I think, and the applicant can kind of explain when he's going to build some of these. But some of the work has been started. Again, the brick piers are already in. Some of the landscaping is already in. A lot of the renovation of the house has already been done, repainting and that kind of thing. And so I'm sure the applicant will get into that, but I think, again, we're just looking for conceptual approval of this. And we think that looking at the 7 integrity guidelines that, as I was discussing before, this is a unique house. Indeed, we hardly have any. And a lot of cities you see like, hundreds of these in their historic district, but this is pretty much, I think, the only one according to lease with HBF and Beaufort. And it's on a main corner, kind of a primary corner into town. So it's an important house, I think, for the historic district. And we think that, with those 7 integrity standards that, they pretty much met all of them. We think that the accessory units that they're putting on definitely match the architecture pretty well. So I think, one of the big things is the piers that, they weren't approved. I think our architect thought that they were maybe too large. They draw attention, I think, from the corner to the house. So, I think they kind of guide you to perspective to the house, but the concern is this is not really seen anywhere else in town also. So this house is unique, and so that's something to think about. But the size of them is something that was thought of to be maybe scaled back. So again, we're recommending conceptual approval. That's kind of the main thing that there's some concern about. We just needed spec sheets for a lot of materials for the accessory structures, doors, window doors, roofing, brick, paint colors, lighting. But of course, that's something that we would expect to come at final anyway, because of this is the conceptual level approval, and there's no reason to provide that level of detail here. And the same thing with the windows, details. The proposed fence, I think in the specifications of it, we kind of got the sketch. It looks nice on the sketch, but we kind of need some material, what's going to be made out of, what's it going to be painted. And just some drawings for the service yard. So you can kind of see all of the buildings there on the screen. I think the applicant did a great job with the architecture and his documents there, but you can see how they kind of relate to that main structure. And with that, I will stop.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. This is the applicant here. Like to present anything?
Yes, thank you. My name is Steve Goggins, and I'm the developer as well as the architect of the property. We're literally about 2 or 3 weeks away from finishing the main house, and it's been a bit of a journey. We've been working on it now for almost a year, and hopefully it'll be a proud addition to the inventory for the city of Beaufort. Mike Sutton is my contractor, and of course he serves on this board, and Mike is a rule follower. I'm a rule follower. And I wanted to explain just briefly about the piers. First of all, the piers, from a design intent perspective, are virtually the same size as the chimney, the tops of the chimneys, and also the same size as the pedestals that support the 2 ionic columns. So their width was drawn from that. They are a little deeper than the plinth or the pedestal on which they sit on the porch. But that again was where the proportions were drawn from. They stand about this tall. There is a row of very ancient crepe myrtles that they were draped with Spanish moss and just about smothered. We've cleaned all that up. That's right on the property line. So there was not a way to put a fence because of the crepe myrtles. And so to differentiate between public and private domain, we're going to run a podocarpus hedge that'll be about 2 or 3 feet tall that will define the property boundary. And so these entry piers were designed to kind of anchor and terminate that hedge. So some way you've got to terminate it. I think the objection is that I've heard is that there may be a little too bulky. And I can see that, quite honestly. It's Queen Anne architecture is a little bit delicate. On the other hand, again, they do relate to some of the architectural elements that I mentioned. So the why they were put in ahead of approval, we submitted to the city request for approval for the steps and the walkway and the brick pavers, and did receive that approval from staff. The same drawing that had those elements shown and identified also had the pier detail. We didn't ask for the pier approval at the time. And so my contractor, Mike, got this sheet of drawings, thought it was all approved. So he proceeded to put in the walk, put in the steps, put in the piers. So we ask apologies for that, but I think there's some design basis for what we did there. The only other remark I'll make regarding the way we approach the 2 accessory structures, if this were another site, we might have decided to combine the 2 accessory structures into one, put the residential part of the accessory structure on top of the garage. What we were trying to do though is keep the profile of those 2 structures very low, as low as we could, so they fit under the canopy of the oak trees. We brought in an arborist and had some discussion with him about the limbs, the roots, the same arborist the city uses. And on top of that, the pool, the only place on the site that gets any sun is that side yard. So that determined the location of pools. So there was some rhyme and reason for why we did what we did. But again, apologies for getting out over our skis with the piers. We did generate an AI image showing how the piers might be nestled in. The consideration.
What AI did you use?
So the brick pavers and all are in, the piers are in. We just added some landscaping that we hope to continue with.
Good.
And with that, we would like to start landscaping fairly soon. So the other parts and pieces will be into you at a future date for final approval.
Great, thank you. We'll open it up to public comment if anyone's got anything they'd like to say about the project.
Hi, I'm Maxine Lutz here representing Historic Beaufort Foundation and Lisa, who unfortunately has a migraine today. And I just learned about this morning, so I'm not fully informed. And I do have her notes. And I think Steve, she's expressed to you her concerns or the committee's concerns about the size of the piers and that the committee would like to see those reduced in size. Her other note said that both of the accessory dwellings appear more elevated than they need to be, and perhaps the pitch can come down. She just, going back to the piers, says they appear massive for the structure itself. And of course, as Steve acknowledged, they were done without approval. And we agree that the plantings will probably reduce the visual size of those. And I don't know that the committee discussed this, but because I wasn't there the day this was discussed, personally, I'm really sorry your arborist murdered those crepe myrtles. I understand they needed to be cleaned up, but crepe myrtle is a terrible thing. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Jeremiah Smith, 1107 West Street. Since there's some dissent, I just thought I would give my 2 cents. I like what I'm seeing. I don't think they're out of scale. Those brick piers, I think they direct you towards the front door, and that's a good thing. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else or anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, we'll close public comment and bring it up here. I have all of my thoughts, but I'll let others speak first if they'd like, or have any concerns or comments.
I agree with the brick piers. I think they're rather massive, but I think looking at the landscape AI imaging, I think they can look okay if you do a lot of landscaping around it. The thing that concerned me the most, I drove by today and got out and took some photographs. And the thing that concerned me the most was the 42-inch live oak in the backyard. And reading the letter from the arborist about it would have impact on the root system of the tree, the garage placement, that there would be root cutting at some point. I noticed there were already limbs cut off of the bottom of the tree, and that the radial setback for the garage from the tree would be 10.5 feet. I don't see anywhere on the drawings where it says how far the garage is from the tree, and I would like to know that. I just think it's a gorgeous tree. If you haven't seen it, you should go by and look at it. It is definitely a landmark tree.
Who was the arborist that did that report?
Michael Murphy, board certified master arborist.
Okay.
Yeah, it was August 7th, 2025. It's in our package. And he said there would be damage done. I think we can minimize it if we go by his recommendations to make sure that the garage is not within 10.5 feet of the tree. I would hate to lose that tree.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of concern over the piers, but not a ton, depending on how they can be softened by landscaping, and then some concern about the tree. Yep. Okay.
Well, I went by there again today after looking at it the other day for the first time, but I appreciate, Steve, what you've done. I think this is very helpful. And this is
Yeah.
what I would assume would happen when you landscape it. The scale of the piers that are now standing by themselves would be minimized. And I think it's something to this effect would certainly help. And with that, I'm comfortable with what, with what you have constructed. I share the concern about the tree. I think we all do. It's interesting, in one of the pictures that was presented with Kirk, when you're going through this, there's no tree protection around the tree now.
Right.
And, if we're going to have concern and have an arborist give us their opinion on the impact from construction, where you have construction going on now, you have trailers sitting there, you have the porta-john, in this picture. There needs to be, from day one, there should be protection around the tree. And I think you can do what you're proposing. I'm not an arborist, but we've successfully built around trees. Hopefully, as you move forward, the arborist would be engaged. And if you have roots that you have to sever, that's done properly, and or you bridge over those roots like we've done. We've got a project that we literally will do a grade beam above and leave the roots intact. I'm sure you'd probably adhere to that. You have a good builder, obviously. So I think if, as long as it's being monitored during construction, they could certainly successfully do that. Yeah, I have a nice project. It's been interesting. I've watched this house since I've been here now, and it's sort of sat there dormant, and you brought it back to life. So it's a nice project. So I'm good. I think the recommendation that the staff has made, with the exception of reducing the size or the height of the pier, I'm comfortable with. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, they specifically are addressing that they're gonna try and preserve that tree, so I anticipate that they'll be thoughtful in that. I disagreed with the staff comments about the pier. I think if you go down Hancock Street, you can find plenty of examples of brick piers where people have terminated their fences or their hedges in exactly the same manner that the applicant has expressed. In fact, specifically, if you look at 403 Hancock Street, that's an example of one. And I think there's several others. So I don't think it's true that it doesn't exist. I think it certainly does exist. You might not see two piers stand alone without any fence or without any shrubbery, but you certainly see a lot of it being piers like that incorporated in the manner that the applicant has expressed. So I don't agree with that assessment, and so I would not be supportive of staff recommendation number one. I think the piers are fine as they are, especially given the way the applicant intends to use them. Everything else with the design I thought was wonderful. I think the architectural work is great. I think you can see a lot of the elements from the main structure being brought into the garage and the guest house. I think it's been very thoughtfully designed. So I'm very supportive of the project in its current form. I did have one question about the placement of the garage. Could we go back a few slides? It just looks like it's obviously biased to one side of the right there. It looks like it's a little too far biased to the left. Am I just mistaken on how it's gonna lay there?
You're basically seeing the roof.
The eave is stretching over it, but then the edge of the garage is gonna basically come right up to.
Going to align with the drive, pretty much where the drive over is, and we are.
It'll just align right with this. Okay.
We're.
Yep. Can you come up to the podium to speak, please?
On the one hand, we're trying to keep some separation from the principal structure, but also maintain that 10.5 feet that was referred to,
From the tree.
from the
That's
tree.
minimum. Yeah, that's minimum. So because there's nowhere that it says how many feet.
If you scale it, and certainly I'll commit to the idea that, it's 10.5 feet. That was part of our, part of our design criteria, or what we were going by when we designed it.
Because it says minimum of 10.5,
Right,
preferred 17.5.
right.
So I'm somewhere in the middle.
I think if you, yeah, I'm not frankly too concerned with Mr. Murphy's comments, because I think if you hired 5 different arborists, they'd all have different opinions.
Yeah.
And his tends to lean very far in one direction. So that doesn't give me heartache. Okay, so you're envisioning the garage door side, the edge of the building is gonna be aligned with the edge of the driveway, and then what I'm seeing is just the eave protruding.
Correct. And in a prior TRC meeting, we established that the front of the garage would not extend past the front of the house on Monson Street. So that established the front, the distance from the tree established its proximity. Now, we could move it a little bit closer to the house, but that starts, I think, feeling a little crowded.
Okay,
So, and the walkway that you saw before would run right between, in the middle.
right, okay. I love how the chimney in that bottom right picture is protruding and exposed through that gable. That
Yeah,
looks
that's a
great.
beautiful detail.
Yeah, okay,
Can't claim credit for that. That was done by Mr. Lennox and his builder
the,
about
okay,
100 years ago.
okay, great. All right, thank you. Well, so I'll bring it back up here. So I'm okay with giving conceptual approval as is, and I would nix that first staff recommendation because I'm fine with the piers as described. Do you guys have any heartache over that?
No, that's the motion I would make. With the exception.
Right.
That's motion.
Do so I've heard the motion. Do you want to second that, or do you have anything you want to add or discuss?
I'm okay with everything except the tree. And if we could move it just a little bit closer to the house, I know it's not ideal, but it's not ideal to lose the tree either.
Well, are we letting the tail wag the dog a little bit? I mean, why are we assuming that the tree's gonna be lost? There's,
I'm just trying to remove any doubt or the majority of the doubt. I mean, like Grady even mentioned, and I saw today, it has not been protected so far.
would you be,
And, if I can be guaranteed that it's not going to infringe on, I mean, like the guy says, 10.5 is minimal. And that's where we have it right now, according, to the owner, is that right now, that's where at the minimum. I mean,
well, we have minimums and maximums for a reason.
yeah,
So he's not infringing, he's within the left and right lateral bounds. Are we making new requirements by saying?
no, I
minimums
just
not
want
good
it
enough?
in there. I want it in the,
You want to make it a condition that?
Yeah.
For a conceptual, what specifically you would want them to provide, what their tree mitigation plan is?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I asked, to protect the tree.
sure.
Mr. Murphy was pretty confident that we could do the garage where we had it located without losing the tree. What I would respectfully suggest is that it'd be a condition that we bring Mr. Murphy out during the construction process. We're going to hand dig the footings, have him write a report that would be submitted to this board, at the time we're doing the construction, and then we would also agree to engage in a post-construction care plan for the tree. We want notwithstanding, we've been a little careless with tree barricades. We very much want to keep the tree. The one limb that's been pruned was one that knocked the chimney down in the hurricane we had summer before last. We're very much going to take care of the tree going forward. It's part of the ground, it's part of the plan.
I'd be okay with that. Yeah, I think that's great.
Do we want to make it that specific, or do we just want to say, we could take Mr. Grady's or Mr. Woods's motion add a condition that the applicant provides a tree mitigation plan, and they can provide that in whatever form they deem appropriate.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we'll modify the motion. Okay, so motion's modified to that,
A second.
and so we'll start voting. Start with you. You want to,
Restate it.
Yes, I have someone to make the motion, just, I don't know that someone did. Remake the motion,
you want to okay?
restate that, yeah, thank you.
My motion is to give them conceptual approval. Now, having them address the tree through the construction process and put. Yeah, I don't think it should come back to. us
Right.
at this point. So I'll do the motion.
Excellent.
Okay, I second that.
Okay, great. Now we'll vote on it. Happy? Okay.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So that's done. Congratulations. Good luck with the project. We're excited to see it. Okay. Next item, 1511 King Street.
Okay,
But let's wait until we get Ms. Petrella back.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so the purpose of this request is to add a new detached carriage house at the rear of the existing contributing structure. So this is also a contributing structure, also built around the turn of the last century, I guess the 1900s there. It's in T4N. It's kind of, let's show it where it is there. It's kind of at the border of the bluff and the northwest quadrant, kind of in a transitional zone between the two of them. You can see it's kind of mid-block. But right now it's a short-term rental. And it's a hall and parlor design house that's one story that looks just like this. So again, it's contributing. And essentially what the applicant and, you know, is in the flood, not in the floodplain. And here's what it looked like in the past, but what the applicant's intending to do is to place an accessory dwelling unit carriage house, a two-story accessory dwelling unit on the rear of the property. And so this is kind of a look at that. And so they've had two HTRC meetings. There's been some concern at those meetings about the height of the structure, the design of the structure, and whether it matches the architecture of the contributing house that we just saw. I can go back to it. And the fact that it didn't appear that it was subordinate to that primary house that's a contributing structure. So this was the original submittal at the first HTRC, so you can just see that there's, you know, been some changes to it. You know, what it's going to be used for, whether it's a short-term rental, which I think you're all aware, there's some code changes that, you know, may be very soon and taking place. That could restrict this likely, but those haven't been approved. Or it's a rental that's not really in your purview, but you know, this was the first submittal. And this was the second submittal to the HTRC, which they've revised, which they're presenting to you. And so, you know, a lot of the concern here is that, and there's a courtyard also. They have removed the garage from the carriage house that was originally proposed in that first submittal that you can see on that right-hand corner, kind of a one-car garage. So that's been removed. They've also lowered the roof. So as I've stated, the preservation manual is pretty clear that an ADU or a carriage house for any primary structure, especially a contributing home, just like the last one, should match the architecture and should be subordinate. So it shouldn't be taller, it shouldn't be, you know, it should be subordinate to the house. And so I think that's been a lot of the conversation of the HTRC, but they have lowered it almost 2 feet. They have it from that original submittal here. So this was taller, much higher pitch. And they've also added the dormer windows that they didn't have before. You know, the concern is the windows on the first floor are smaller than the second floor. that you can see here. Sorry, I went a little too quick. So you can kind of see them on the side. They're much smaller than that first floor. You know, I think our concern is that it's just not subordinate massing architecture height to the contributing structure. And so, you know, we've got the quote here from the preservation manual, and really that's also in our development code that it's supposed to be subordinate and architecturally similar. You know, we would recommend reducing this to a one-story carriage house, and that's like has been the direction from the HDRC. So you have all their action summaries there. You know, maybe the dormers for a second-story living space that keeps the same height that could provide a little extra room. You know, the existing house height is 18.4. And so they have some pretty good images, I think, in your packet that you've seen, showing some sight lines. I'll let them kind of explain that, but you know, they're saying that it would take 211 feet for you know, person my height to see the subordinate structure.
So 2/3 of the football field away.
So well, yeah, a little over 2/3. A
Over
little over
2/3.
2/3. So they've done that. I think the applicant's an engineer, so you can, you know, I mean, we usually don't get this kind of analysis, so it's nice that they provided it. So here's another shot of it. That you know, maybe 5% of the carriage house would be visible on the east side of the cottage through the driveway as well. So I'll let them, they're saying that, you know, basically directly on King Street, that they don't believe that any of the carriage house would be visible from the street. So, and that's what they're saying from the southwest as well. So I can let them go through that, but, you know, they provided all of this information. You know, and there's, you know, from this vantage point, 20% would be visible of that new carriage house. Here's the materials that they were looking at, the double French door, which I think, you know, is somewhat, would be somewhat unique here. The gas lamp there, the Anderson 400 series windows. Metal roof for the awnings, asphalt shingles to match the existing house. They're doing cedar siding and trim boards and gravel driveway. And so, you know, I think the concern is that I think I've been kind of beating up on it the whole time, but again, I think it meets some of the integrity standards. You know, I think they're choosing some nice material, some nice materials. They're keeping the trees. The workmanship is consistent, but you know, again, 4 of the 7 integrity standards we think are in conflict. The location, the design, especially with that not subordinate to that primary structure, materials and feeling, we feel are not really met. You know, we just don't feel that the architecture, et cetera, really is consistent with the existing contributing structure. But you know, he can make his case for it to you. So again, the existing house is, you know, almost 19 foot high. They're proposing a 23.5 foot, roughly 23.5 foot high house to the rear, or carriage house to the rear. You know, again, our concern is those windows, the height, the lack of subordinate nature, you know, just the overall feeling that this will have on the historic district if we start approving larger accessory dwelling units than contributing primary structures. So with that, I will stop.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant, yep.
I am Mike Drake. I'm here with my father. We both co-own 1511 King Street. A lot of the issues that have been discussed in the previous renditions of the board, the pre-board, things like that, we have taken, especially from the January meeting to the February meeting, we have taken and redone pretty much everything in terms of what the design is, the plans, things like that. The design that we chose and how we chose and went through there is all based on approved and already existing or currently being built carriage houses in Beaufort, in downtown Beaufort, historic Beaufort. So everything that we have designed and put into this has come from existing structures. Mainly 1303 North Street, which is the example in the developmental code book. 1110 Green Street, which has a two-story carriage house and a single-story main house. And then 417 Newcastle, which has a two-story carriage house and a single-story main house on the same lot. So, and kind of summarizing I kind of take objection to the word subordinate being used as finite as it has been in this whole process. As it's not defined in the preservation manual clearly. It's only used 3 times in the preservation manual. And it's, in my opinion, it's very open to interpretation as to what subordinate means. I feel that the staff is using the word to delineate an absolute height, and that is where the biggest issue I feel is where they're pushing back on the design. Where I'm pushing back on them on our design is the absolute height of the building, not the relative height, which is why you have a design or a drawing showing that your vantage points are only going to see certain angles and what that's going to look like. Yeah, so again, a lot of these are things that have the window proportions, that's something, it may not have made it into the submission here. The downstairs windows have not been redrawn, but they're going to be 30-50 windows, just like every other window on the thing. So that was to address those. And then to match that to the main property there as well, or the main structure. And I believe that addresses most of the issues that were brought up or the staff brought up with its thing. Because again, we've addressed the massing, scale, all of that stuff with this redesign, which is again based on existing structures that are currently approved and currently being built. So I don't know. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from public comment? Hello again.
Ryan Smith, 1107 West Street. I somewhat agree with the applicant about the absolute height. I would urge you to look more at the mass and scale as if it feels right, looks right, if the design is good, rather than, is this 23, is this 19? Does it feel big? Is it vertically proportioned, or is it, big and squatty? So maybe a harder thing to figure out, but I would look more at the details in the design rather than absolute height. I think there's several details and materials that need to be worked through, but personally, I wouldn't say, definitely not too higher than the main structure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Maxine Lutz, 811 North Street. I think, Michael, thank you for meeting with Historic Beaufort so much, and thank you for what you've done to the original dwelling. I didn't know who had done that, and it's really wonderful on that street. I think HBF concurs with staff that the height of the accessory building needs to come down. And they recommended that the plate height and the roof pitch be lowered, that it should not be above the main house. And while I know the ordinance calls for the accessory not to be visible from the street, this is highly visible from the Pat Conroy Center and perhaps even from Bladen Street. But that was the committee's opinion.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll bring it up here to discuss, and I am gonna start, because I have a lot to say, and so I want to start, so I will start. So I actually am, very much in agreement with what the applicant's viewpoint is on this. I think subordinate is not well defined. I think it has to do with relativity. I don't think it's an absolute thing at all. My first thought before I even reviewed the entire packet and all the comments from the staff when I was just looking at the plans and the site was, you're not even gonna see it. You're not gonna see it. You gotta go a football field away almost to see it, and you're not even gonna be able to get that far. So I think this is much ado about nothing. I think we're getting distracted by the size of it instead of contextualizing its place on the lot. I agree. I owned a property on Newcastle and Prince Street that had a single-story main house that was a historic structure. And it had a carriage house that was 2 stories. Just like this, just like it. And so the other ones that he's referencing, I don't know those by heart, but I know personally from properties I've owned that this has certainly been the case in many parts of the historic district. So I think that there are a lot of staff comments about the size of the structure, about the windows, about the double doors, about things that when it's a structure that we don't see from the road or a public right of way, we normally would not care about. I don't know why on this particular application, we seem to be giving so much breadth to things that seem to be non-issues. I would also like, if we can, do we have access to the internet on this? I want to go to Google Maps.
Map in the beginning. You just want to go.
Can we go directly to Google Maps?
Just gonna see if is this helpful?
No, I want to actually go to a street view on the alleyway behind it.
Can I do that? Will it show up? We'll find out.
Give a. Well, why don't- That's even more credence.
I think we got it.
So while you're pulling that up, I'll talk on some specific points. If you imagine that you had a 2-acre lot, and in the front of the lot, let's say it's narrow and deep, and your main house is right up against the road. It's a 1-story house. It's wide. It's a historic structure. 2-acre lot, 1-acre lot, whatever it is. And in the back left corner of the lot, tucked away, no one can see it unless you're really looking for it, is a 2-story structure. That's a carriage house. You see that all the time, all over the place. Are we saying that that is somehow compromising the main structure?
Yeah.
I think a structure to compromise the main historic structure would have to be visibly detracting from it. And if it's not visible at all, then it can't be detracting from the main structure. So I think the term subordinate, the term compromise, I think some of these terms. So, okay, so can you go to the
Conroy Center.
to the alleyway behind it?
Lane.
I want to get to the back side of it. And then turn right, yeah.
There's
It'll-
2 little rental units,
Oh, no,
yeah,
it'll
right
go
there.
down.
It will. I've already done this.
Further down.
Go one more. A little bit more. Okay, turn right. That's the back of this house.
Mhm.
Okay, now look directly to the left. What's right there? You can't see that from the other street. Now turn to the left some more. turn all the way around. And you see this, no offense, but this ugly brick thing,
Ugly brick thing.
ugly brick thing, okay? And nobody has heartache over those two things, okay? I just want to show everybody what's actually already there. And what they're proposing is a much improvement over what's actually existing right there.
Can we go to the Pat Conroy parking lot?
We will, just one more thing before we go back. There was a note from the staff, go back real quick. A little too far. Okay, that's fine, actually. So you see a tree on the right, yep, that tree on the right-hand side. There was a comment from the staff about potentially moving the carriage house to the west, I believe, which would make it even more difficult to see probably. But that the staff wouldn't want to infringe on a live oak is what it says in the packet. That looks like a laurel oak to me, and the tree and topo also showed it as a laurel oak.
I thought it had laurel oak in the staff report.
The staff report
we
calls
just
it a
said
live
laurel.
oak.
Oh, well, that's a mistake.
But there's a laurel oak there, which the new tree ordinance may protect those, which is crazy, but that's a different topic. But that might be an option. I just want to point that out, but we can go to,
We would have it's protected at a certain point, but then, it's understood that they reach a certain maturity and then they start to.
they start to fall on houses. Yep. But it's not a live oak. I wanted to make that distinction, that it's a laurel and not a live oak. Okay. So I think Ms. Wilson wanted to see a perspective from the Conroy Center. You want to direct him? Rita, which
Oh,
direction to
It's
go?
on the other side of the building there, on the other side.
To the
Go
front?
back, yeah, so see where the cars are parked to the right, yeah, in there. Go inside the parking lot.
No,
I don't think you can go in the parking
Once
lot.
you go in the
No.
parking lot.
no, that's about the best.
You're concerned that the folks parking there would be able to see it?
This is the number top attraction in the city of Beaufort, the Pat Conroy Center. It's in the top 3. We might consider that.
I don't think that we can consider that as it relates to whether or not they are or are not by law allowed to build something.
No, but you consider mass and scale. And that's what, when we're talking about absolutes and I think like Jeremiah was correct, we should look at not absolute heights and stuff. It should be mass and scale. Is this the scale? I think this whole area, because of the Bladen redevelopment thing, is taking this whole area out of control. That everybody thinks they can build 2- and 3-story structures here. And some people are being allowed because it's in that whole redevelopment Bladen thing. So now everybody wants to build a 2- or 3-story structure. And so I just feel like this whole area now is going to become 2- and 3-story structures when the main primary structures are 1-story.
Well, I think, so the house I had on Newcastle was built, the carriage house was actually older than the main structure. And it was built at least early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. So certainly it's been the case. It's not a new phenomenon
Right.
that has occurred. And I know some of the other ones are the same. So I also think this obsession with mass and scale, if you cannot see it, is kind of moot. I mean, at base, what is an architectural review board? It's a board that's supposed to opine on the aesthetic of things. If you can't see something, then what aesthetic does it have? And so I would submit that, whether or not it's subordinate, whether or not it compromises the main structure's historical nature, I think there's a moot if you can't see it. And I think the applicant did a good job of showing that it can't be seen unless you're HBF and you really, really want to go out there and look at it. That would be,
What does that mean?
that means that there's a, you know, a 5% sliver where you can see it. But unless your mission is to go and find this 5% sliver, this angle to see it, you're not gonna see it. And so I guess if you wanted to take the perspective of how does it impact the historic district? And you have thousands of tourists and citizens and residents that are traveling through the streets, King Street and all these different streets. How many of them are gonna notice it? Realistically. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts. There's 4 of us up here, so I'll let everyone else talk.
So but I do think it doesn't really.
Mike?
There we go, sorry. I don't think it necessarily complements the existing cottage architecturally. And I think that's more of the concern for me that, you know, if you're gonna have a secondary building, it needs to, I think it still should be a little smaller. I think the building is kind of bigger than it would need to be. I look at the plan and the bedrooms are huge. I think it could be scaled down a little bit, but I also think that it doesn't necessarily complement the main cottage. And that whole street is lined with cottages.
Right. That's how I feel. I agree with Kim.
Would you be supportive of them building a 2-story cottage if it was scaled down a little bit or shifted over? I guess my question is, the bedrooms are big. What relevance does that play on whether or not they have a right to build something like this?
No, I'm not saying that it does. I'm just saying that the idea that a secondary building should not overshadow the original building is what I'm thinking about. Who's going to say those trees aren't going to fall down one day? Then you've got this big garage or big secondary building and you've got this little tiny cottage. I just feel like it should be more cohesive
Well, I think
design-wise.
what they were trying to show was that, and what I would agree with is that even if the trees went down, the distance between it and the main structure and the height difference lends itself to make it so that you wouldn't be able to see it even without the trees from King Street.
Have you gone over there?
I mean, I've driven past it.
I mean, it's a tiny,
Yeah.
it's tiny in the back.
It is. I spend a lot of time over there. You know, there's a little park right across the street that has all the benches. They're planning to do wedding ceremonies and things like that over there.
Sure.
So I spend a lot of time over there and I believe you will be able to see the structure from some angle.
Sure.
Maybe not right across from the sheriff's department, but you will be able to see it from the Conway Center, from the 2 little cottage behind it in the alley, the little purple and coral or whatever colors. So I just don't think the mass and scale are ideal for that section.
My turn.
Sure.
Brady.
I'm sorry, a question to the staff. We're giving 2 alternates, 1 and 2. Which have they decided on one or the other? Or did I miss which one they're?
Oh, we were just showing the progression from the HTRC
So
process.
alternate 2 is
Alternate 2 is what they've submitted.
where we are now.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I just put this back up because it had the carriage house language that it's not subordinate, but this is the actual submittal.
Well, I have to agree with what's been said and that absolutes are tough to follow. In some cases, I think there's always case by case basis. But I think what Jeremiah said is spot on. It should be looking at the building in this context and the detail. But if you look at the left side and the right side, this is not a well-done building, in my opinion. I understand they have to deal with keeping the scale down, and by doing so, then the roof pitch gets flatter and the proportions tend to change. These buildings should be narrow and a little taller proportionally, but I think they were forced to compromise their design because they're trying to meet a height requirements, which unfortunately leaves it with, in my humble opinion, not the best result. I look at this too, if they were building both these buildings at the same time, if this building, the front of the house did not exist, would we approve the scale of one building in the back being higher than the primary structure. My assertion would be we would not. So why would we then make an exception to allow the second building then, break that rule, so to speak? I certainly don't take issue with the chairman's assessment. You can't see this, but if we took that and we apply that across the board, we don't need to be here because we just have facades that would address only the street, and the three other portions of the building we would care less about. So I don't think we can apply that. Things change. Trees die. Other things happen that could obviously change the perspective that we may not see it today, but that's not going to be necessary forever. So I think, although I understand, and I think the applicant's done a very good job of presenting their case and showing sightlines. I appreciate all the graphics. And from a practical standpoint, I don't think we can disagree, but from the fundamentals of why we're here, I think if you just isolate the building, I think they need more work on it. So I'm going to support the staff's recommendation on this for denial and ask them to continue to work for a better solution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, no, thank you. One moment, I'll give you a chance to come back up. Well, let's consider, so I'm hearing mostly from up here, non-support of the current design. Is it non-support of a two-story structure, period? Can we get more specific so we can provide them some kind of guidance?
I'm going to support the recommendation of the staff, and they have gone through all these committees. I think they should just go back and let them work through this. I don't think I'm prepared to say, is it 3 feet less or
Sure.
4 feet less? I think.
Or would you be prepared to say you would be okay with the two-story structure, but it needs to be restudied in a way that makes the massing and scaling more modest? Or would you?
Well, I don't know. I have to see it. I think that's a hypothetical.
Sure.
Without seeing it, I think that would just be misleading at best. If we said, come back with a two-story structure, we could probably find it acceptable. I think the 1.5-story structure is certainly going to be going the right direction. I know they have a program and there's certain things they want to accomplish. I don't want to take that away from them. They ought to have the right. I'm a property rights guy. They have the right to develop it. I just think they're going to have to look at how can they, if their intent is this, I don't think this is the right solution. I think they could break the massing down and maybe keep the height differently or closer, but they need to, they just need to deal with the proportions of it and address the comments that the staff has recommended as far as windows and detailing and so forth. So I think it's just back in a way, back to the drawing board, or at least take one step back before we move forward.
Okay. Any other comments, or is somebody ready to make a motion?
I do want to say on the staff recommendations under materials, it says the gas light fixtures are not historic in Beaufort, blah, blah, blah. We've approved that in the past
Sure.
because it's a new structure. So I don't have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that and the double doors, I didn't
Yeah.
think were an issue. But I don't see much issue with it, period, but it seems like I stand alone there. Did the applicant, did you have another comment you'd like to make?
I do. And again, I reference you all back to 1303 North Street in its current state, 1110 Green Street, which, Mr. Woods, I know you just said that you don't support the structure, but I'd like to reference this. Story, building behind is in the story.
I'm sorry.
Hers. Not this one, the other one.
My house is also non-contributing.
Right. Okay, I'd like to know what the roof heights are though.
Well, let me, and I appreciate that support. That's very helpful. But back to the staff, you're obviously aware of his argument here. Is there any comment that you can help us with as to why that structure would be approved and this would not be?
I think those are non-contributing, first of all.
That's what,
So-
like Kim said, at the,
So that's a non-contributing, but this applicant,
This is a contributing structure. Yes.
and so we set the bar higher on that, clearly.
Yeah, I don't think their primary structures had much architectural or historic value, so.
Want to make a motion, because you had some specifics about. the
oh, that was the
material.
only thing is the on the
Well,
lighting.
I don't think it matters if you're gonna vote to deny it.
Right. But I would like them to have something to go back and kind of, and understand why we're denying it because of it being the historic structure. These are not historic structures. Not sure even what those heights were. I mean, I can't tell by a picture.
Okay.
What the differences were between the two, so.
Motion, just do that as findings, and that would be helpful if it's ever challenged, yeah.
Okay.
Just, that it doesn't meet the 7 integrities because of XXX. And I think there's enough in the packet, you can quote the preservation manual and all the things you just mentioned.
Well, I mean, it sounds like somebody's gonna make a motion to deny in accordance with the staff recommendations.
Or whatever other
But
recommendation.
within the staff recommendations in the packet, it's spelled out that reasoning for why a denial would be appropriate is spelled out.
You can use those, you can, but just anything that has some rational nexus, right? That's the term to the denial, reason, from the code or from, preservation manual, historic district, 7 integrities, those are all good things. So you can just use the staff report, that would work too.
Well, I think there's three votes in one direction and one in another direction, so.
Can you make a motion?
Let's put it together. I had no vote other than staff recommendations.
So referencing the staff's recommendation in a motion is inadequate? Okay.
I think it
Oh.
probably is.
Well, then
okay.
I'd make this very simple.
Because the nexus is there with the staff recommendations. yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, because it's all the meats in the,
Yep. That's kind of what I was trying to drive towards.
okay. All right, then I'd like to make a motion to deny this request based on staff recommendations.
second.
All right. First and a second, any discussion? All right, no discussion. We'll start voting. We'll start down here.
No.
You want to vote? Are you in support of that motion?
Support, yes, I'm sorry, yes,
So you're in
Yes.
aye?
I,
I'm a nay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so motion passes 3-1. Good luck on the next one. All right. Oh, some good discussion, some contention up here. That's good. Healthy to have every now and again.
Hey, we're never going to always agree.
That's right. That's good. All right, so now we're on the 710 Newcastle Street.
All right, good afternoon, Chairman, board members. My name is Nick Navia, Planner 1 with the City of Beaufort. I'll be presenting the staff report for 710 Newcastle Street. This is going to be an expansion / addition of living space to the existing dwelling unit. So here's some general information. The applicant, Mr. Jeremiah Smith, who's the architect. Tom Burnham is the owner. So the applicant's requesting final approval for additions and alterations to the existing dwelling. Importantly, it's a screen porch at the rear and a covered porch and sunroom across the front of what is a non-contributing structure. The main house, T4HN, circa 1970, it's in the northwest quadrant. Here's a picture of the location zoning map. So as you can see, it's Duke Street to the north, Prince Street to the south. And you've got Newcastle Street to the east. The house is facing east. The surrounding zoning, it's all T4N, T4HN. You've got the north 712 Newcastle Street, which is a non-contributing residential structure. To the south is 706 Newcastle, which is the 1896 Grand Army of the Republic Hall contributing structure. And then to the east and west, it's just 2 residential contributing structures. The next slide here is just the flood elevation map. It's in an X flood zone, so there's no flood concerns. You got 16 to 17-foot contours. Here's a street view of the property. It's just a simple, modest, non-contributing, 1-story residential house. And so going into the staff analysis, so we'll just go by facade. So as you can see on the screen, on the left-hand side is the existing site plan, and then on the right is the proposed. So as you can see, that front porch gets extended out. The sunroom is there to the bottom right, and the rear porch is also enlarged a little bit. The current roofed area of the lot is 28%. The zoning district T4HN allows 55% lot coverage. So with the additions, they go up to 42%. So they're still well within what's permitted. So there's no issues there. We've gotten a comment here. The front setback in T4HN is determined by the average prevailing setback line, which, looking at the properties adjacent to it, is about 13 feet for this location. We've got written that the new sunroom and front porch addition slightly go beyond that line, but that's an average. So being 1 foot 8 inches past that line is not an issue. Going to the next page, we've got here just the expansion in the dwelling's ridge height. It shows how it's compliant with the existing streetscape. The additions do not surpass the buildings adjacent to it. The pictures there show the actual buildings next to it, and kind of what their rough heights are as is. The proposed ridge height is expanded from 15 feet to 21 feet 6 inches. So you're looking at a 6.5 foot increase in height, but again, staff has no issue with that. The next slide, we're looking at the east elevation. So again, on the left-hand side, you've got the existing, and then on the right-hand side, you've got the proposed new front elevation. So the removals of the current elevation include all the windows, the front door, porch, front steps, the roof, walls, and siding. And the proposed changes, as you can see there, is the new sunroom with 2 sets of ganged windows. You've also got the expansion of the roofed front porch from the left side, so that's the sunroom there, to include 3/4 of the front elevation. You're also looking at a total of 8 new windows, which are larger in size to the current existing windows. Again, 3 of which are ganged windows. There's going to be a new front door, the new front gable, and the overall new higher roof to include the small square-shaped window there in the gable, as well as new 6 by 6 inch wooden posts along the front porch, and new cementitious siding, smooth cementitious siding for the addition as well. And then on the bottom, you can see just quickly the south elevation of the building, kind of going in what some of those proposed changes we just went over were. And so for those where it's the section of the existing wall and siding for the future window, just bedroom number 2, you just go back there, you can see that on that south elevation. And then the proposed changes are a 20-foot expansion of that side facade. You're adding the proposed sunroom towards the south, new roof again, and it's the 5V metal roof. Gables are to be added over the additions, and the louvered vent added into the new side gable. The new screen porch, as you can see, with the shed roof, and a total of 6 new windows. mostly for that new sunroom. And then again, cementitious siding for that side of the house. So looking at the rear or the west elevation, the removals there are the unroofed porch, which has a pergola. You've got the section of existing roof to be cut out. That's for the additional roofs to be added overall. And then the proposed changes are the new screen porch with its own shed roof. You've got, again, the integrated gable, and also includes the lower floor base with new wooden steps and 4 wooden posts, which are 6 by 6 as well. And then new cementitious siding as well, just like on all the other facades. And then finally, for the north elevation or the right elevation, they're removing a small window from the side sliding door that's going away, and then also removal of existing corner boards. And then the proposed changes are a new window for the master bedroom is to be added, and a total of 3 new roofs with the 5E metal roofing to be added, of which the new center roof, including the louvered vent, reaches that aforementioned ridge height of 21 feet and 6 inches. And the roof slope is 8 by 12. And so staff's opinion is that this does meet all of our integrity guidelines. I can go into each one if needed, but we are good with we think it does meet all of them. And our staff recommendation is conceptual approval with the following recommendations. So I'll just go over these real quick. I think the main one is a bit of an issue is that the existing rear porch is encroaching beyond the rear setback line, which puts it into a legal non-conforming structure. The proposed porch is slightly larger than the existing. We do have language in the code to where if the only issue of non-conformance is setbacks, new additions are allowed to encroach that same amount, but they can't encroach anymore. So because of that, we're supportive of the expansion, but an administrative or board level approval may be required to allow that small additional encroachment to the rear. We'd like the applicant to provide images of all sides of the building. The third finding, it's the proposed front porch, encroaches 1 foot and 8 inches beyond the average prevailing setback line. However, we're supportive, so that we don't need to, we can ignore just number 3, to be honest. Number 4 is, since the HTRC meeting, the applicant has revised the front porch configuration. Again, we're in support of it, but due to interior configurations, the front door is not centered between the columns. I can just show that real quick here. You can see there on the front elevation, the door is slightly offset between the 2 columns. So we recommend the applicant to study ways to align the front door within this bay. Ultimately, we are still in support of the current configuration. Number 5 is we believe that the rear porch shed appears odd on the right elevation. So if we go right there, you can take a look at that. Due to its shed form and its 312 pitch, the roof needs to extend a long distance before it intersects with the gable roof form. The staff recommends the applicant study ways to resolve that connection. The transition from a shed roof to a hip roof form may be appropriate. Number 6 is that the applicant to note any HVAC service yards, label these areas, and provide information on any screening elements. Number 7 is applicant to provide typical sections showing any new additions, and for the applicant to also provide the typical window jamb, head, sill details, door details, and on any other typical details, including but not limited to the eave rafter details, front porch, stair details, etc. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We have the applicant or applicant's representative. Hello again.
Good afternoon. Thanks for your time and looking at this project. If it's all right, I'll just go through some of those
Sure.
elements. Jeremiah Smith, Allison Ramsey Architects. Good one. All right, that first item where the rear porch is over the setback, I went back and looked at it. We may be 2 inches off. It's hard to tell because of the survey and the house is a little not parallel. If you want, we can pull that in 2 inches, or if you want to approve it, that'd be cool too. I'm good with either way. Number 2, we can certainly provide images of all sides. Number 3, I think we're all good on, unless you disagree with staff. Number 4, yes, the front door is a little off in that bay. The reason is it's kind of in the corner of the living room. It's the best place for circulation, so that one side can stay for furniture, the other side can be used for circulation. It is sort of common if you look around and, you know, there's quirky things that are off in a lot of bays in the historic district. One idea would be to kind of fill that space with the front lantern. Number 5, I wish I'd thought of that. I think the hip roof would be great on the back. So thanks for that tip, staff. Number 6 is the HVAC yards. We'll certainly add those. They're gonna likely stay where they are in the back, but we will show those. And then number 7, we'll provide more details and sections as needed. If y'all want to save some time and give final, that seems good with us, but we're not in a big hurry either. So if you want to see us again, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, open it up to public comment.
I'm Jeremiah Smith. Maxine Lutz. Go with God. It's HBF really liked this project. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't at the meeting, and I don't know that they discussed the front door being off center, but now that it's been pointed out, it is a little troublesome, but I understand the interior design too. So we're very pleased with this.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anything online?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so we'll bring it up here. It sounds like at least number 5 has already been resolved because the applicant's okay with switching that to a hip roof. We're restudying it in that regard. I think there's a couple things we could discuss. I think overall, the project seems great. I think it's gonna look great. I have a few things that I have questions about, but throw it around to anyone else first.
I think it looks great. I think it'll look great with the adjacent buildings. I have no issues with the 2 inches in the back. And I do think like a lantern would look really nice next to the door. Nice balance. Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay.
I agree. I like everything about it.
This is so bizarre. So bizarre. I have 2 contentions. One, I do not like that the door is not centered. That bothers me. I understand the interior stuff. I'm also not going to let that kill this. When I looked at the floor plan, it looked like just to the left of it, as we're facing it, is a closet in that sunroom or whatever that room is in the front left. I don't know if there's a way to change that. That would be my preference. But my preference is not enough to say no. That would just be my preference. I think would make it look better and the proportioning would be better. I also think that the 2 ganged windows on the left seem a bit crowded. But do I understand that that's supposed to be a sunroom?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that
to
makes
me.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, well, I don't have enough to say no. And I think it looks great overall. So, you've done enough motions. I think it's somebody else's turn to do a motion.
Oh,
Everybody's looking at
I'm
you,
looking
Kim.
at the plan. I motion that we approve this, as per the staff recommendations. I. Second me.
Okay, we have a second, a person a second. We'll start down there.
Aye.
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 Okay, congratulations. It'll look great.
Good job, Jeremiah.
All right. Moving along then to 1108 Washington Street. Also somewhat similar. This is a contributing structure, not a non-contributing, so that will be just something to note for this project. But it's for a rehabilitation / renovation of the front section of a building that is on the vacant dilapidated structures list. As well as, more importantly, a proposed partial demolition of the rear portion of the contributing structure. So again, here's just some general information. It's in the T4HN Historic Neighborhood District. It's a contributing structure from about 1900. It's in the northwest quadrant. You're in an X flood zone. The elevation is 15 feet to 17 feet contours. You've got several large trees existing along the property line. Trees aren't a part of this application. No trees are being affected. And also to note is the more recent additions, at least from what we've got right here in the background from the 1960s, are intended to be demolished. The applicant, Jeremiah Smith, has been to one HTRC meeting. That was back on February 18th of this year. So here's just some of the historic inventory info. Again, you can see it's a contributing structure. We've also got the 1924 Sanborn map that shows the structure there with can't exactly tell if it's attached or detached, but a smaller structure there behind the main structure. Here is not yep, that's the wrong map. My apologies for that. Also the wrong one. Yeah, and apologies for the wrong zoning map, but the zone, it is T4HN and it's in the northwest quadrant, which is the important factors here. So here's a street view of the existing structure. The street view is from 2022. Here's another street view kind of from the corner. You can see the rear addition, which is that first floor addition is what's being proposed to be removed, to be demolished. So if we look into the actual site plan here, you can see on the left-hand side, the demolition plan, everything in the thick black lines is essentially what's being proposed to be removed. And then the new proposed floor plan is essentially just that front portion. The existing dwelling has a current heated square footage of 1204. With that demolition, you'd be removing 776 square feet of living space on the rear, which is in disrepair. And you would have a remainder of 428 square feet of total heated space. And of course, that's not counting the porch square footage, that's just heated space. The rehabilitated portion will consist of just a 1-bed, 1-bath with an open kitchen / living room arrangement. And again, the covered front porch and a back staircase, which will also be covered with a small shed roof. So again, here you can kind of see some elevations. There's the existing front elevation with the new proposed front. Not too many changes there. Roof material changes, I believe, changes to the columns. Looking at the existing left elevation, again, you can see where that rear portion is being proposed to be demolished, leaving just the 2-story portion. Here's the rear elevation with the proposed new rear elevation. So again, the rear portion is being demolished, and you can see the new back staircase addition with a small shed roof over it. And then the bottom is the existing right elevation with the proposed new right elevation. Again, same thing, getting rid of that 1-story rear addition. And so here's just kind of our quick staff analysis regarding all of that. So the existing wood frame double hung windows, 2/2, we would like those to be salvaged and repaired. The existing aluminum windows on the sides are to be replaced with fiberglass windows, and the new rear windows to be fiberglass windows too. The current siding, which is asbestos siding, proposed to be replaced with fiber cement siding, as well as the corner boards. And there's original wood siding between the front shed roof and the main roof. We'd like that to remain, assuming that the condition of it is good enough to maintain and repair. The main roof is to be re-roofed with the 5E metal surfacing. We're okay with that. The shed roof over the front porch is going to be roofed with shingles, asphalt shingles. And then the rear shed roof is also going to be that 5E metal roof. The front knee wall to the smooth stucco over CMU existing is with the brick front stairs and brick edge. We're good with that. And then finally, the current 4x4 posts in the front porch is going to be replaced with 6x6 posts. They're going to include basin caps, and it's going to be 6 columns, not 4. And it's going to include wood rails and pickets added to the front and back, and we do support going from 4 to 6. So here's our integrity guidelines and rationale and staff recommendations. So we do believe it meets all the integrity guidelines. So I won't linger on that one too long. I'll go through the findings and recommendations since there is a lot in there, and it's not exactly clear. Number one isn't itself, it's just a finding. It's not any recommendation. It's just stating that in the submission, the applicant has noted all the proposed following changes to the existing structure. Number two kind of goes off of number one. It's just to state that for the applicant to know if any other changes are happening to the building, any existing material should be retained where possible. Staff isn't supportive of the replacement of any historic material that is in sound condition, as this is a contributing structure. So again, it's pretty obvious. It's not really a recommendation there, but it is always good to state. Number three is that the staff may support demolition of the rear addition. And this is actually kind of the big one here. If the existing condition warrants demolition. However, footprints for early additions appear in that 1924 Sanborn map, which I'll just go back to real quick. Right there, so you can kind of see that there. Staff doesn't support the removal if that is in good condition still. So it really depends how dilapidated that rear addition is. Or if the Sanborn map is correct, if that is the same addition, it would be an addition of over 100 years old. But we don't have documentation at this time for that. And without documentation, we're not supportive yet, at least, of the partial demolition. And the applicants also to provide photos showing the areas of demolition and images of disrepair / damage, as well as general images of all facades. Again, this is just to ensure that the proposed demolition of the rear addition is justified or justifiable. Number four is the applicant to clarify if the existing front door is original and if it can be salvaged. Again, just going back to, we're always, leaning that way towards preservation and repair. The Google Maps imagery shows a screen door, which I'll go to real quick. So you can kind of see the screen door there. It makes it difficult to see if there's a solid door behind it. If there is an original door in good condition, staff wouldn't be supportive of its removal. However, if it's a non-original door and if it's in poor condition, we would be supportive of the new proposed front door. And then also for the applicant to know if the door, existing or proposed, is to be stained or painted and indicate a paint color. So, and this is just to maintain if it is a historic, good condition door to keep in line with that. Number five is regarding the siding. So the applicant is proposing to replace siding with fiber cement siding. Staff is not in support of using cementitious siding on an original contributing structure and recommends the applicant use wood siding and trim boards. If there's any original siding under the asbestos siding, we recommend that the applicant should try to salvage this material. Number 6, the staff is supportive of the proposed roof materials. However, we just need a bit of clarification. On the elevations, it doesn't appear to be any asphalt shingle labeling on the elevations. And the roofs appear graphically, they're reading as 5V metal roof. So just clarification on the roofing there. Number 7 is that staff is supportive of replacing the window on each side elevation with fiberglass windows, as the current windows are non-original metal windows. And the applicant has noted on the cut sheet that the proposed windows will have divided lights with interior grills. So it's not a recommendation. We're just saying we're supportive of it. Number 8 is that the applicant is proposing to replace the columns with larger 6x6 pressure treated columns. We're in support of this, but we're requesting photo documentation of the existing conditions. As you can see in the street view there, the current columns are pretty pitiful, I would say. So moving on, number 9, the applicant, we'd like the applicant to clarify the flooring material on the front covered porch. The front porch has a brick perimeter edge, but we're pretty sure it's just a CMU porch flooring material. But if the applicant can confirm that, and if it is, a concrete or CMU, then we may not be supportive of the proposed wood decking that's being proposed for the front porch. The masonry border seems to indicate the concrete floor. So again, that's why we would just want the applicant to clarify that. And then number 10 is just applicant to provide paint colors for any exterior materials wherever applicable. And number 11 is applicant to label all elevations with cardinal directions. And that is all.
Excellent. Thank you. We have, I believe we have the applicant's representative here.
All right.
You've been busy.
Mr. Chairman, how do you want me to go through this?
I think if there's anything in particular that stands out that you disagree with, then that would be where to start. Because if you agree with them, then you don't need to talk about them.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of just clarification, and I'm sorry for maybe some typos, but number 2 and 3 from that Sanborn map, I don't see any indication that it's, the interior walls are still there even. So I think maybe they're different times. I've no way of knowing, or no evidence. Mr. Gibbs,
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
yeah, so on the Sanborn map,
Can we switch to that?
so you can see maybe a back porch was there, and then a long kind of skinny part in the middle. And if you look at our floor plan, there's just nothing still that relates to that. You can see there's a hallway that's not the same walls at all. There's
It's much wider footprint.
yeah,
Right. Okay.
there's no evidence of a 6 or 8 foot back porch or walls. So I think it maybe was removed, unless HBF has something that a picture.
So your contention, I just want to make sure I understand correctly. Your contention is that the structure that's there today that you're proposing demolition is not the same, and there's no evidence that it's the same thing that's on that Sanborn map.
Correct.
2 different things entirely.
I think so.
Okay.
Mr. Gibbs did tell me that his dad in the late 1970s, early 80s, did an addition. Now, it looks like there's actually maybe 2 additions, like a back porch on the very back. He could be talking about that, but I don't know.
Okay.
Number 4, that was just confusion. I gave a spec sheet for the new back door, we do plan to keep the existing front door. I don't know about stained or painted yet, but it's painted now, so probably painted. Number 5 is kind of a big one. There is no existing wood siding, no wood lap siding underneath the asbestos. I get that it's contributing. If Mike Sutton were here, I think he would chime in that, the quality of wood now just doesn't last as long. So I don't think it's a good choice, probably a more expensive choice and a more maintenance choice. That's the tough one though. Y'all can talk about that. We are proposing fiber cement.
Yep.
For the roofing, there are 3 different types right now. There's a shingle on the front porch, which I think needs to be redone. So that'll come off and be put back as close as we can, but it's not in good condition. So there's shingle, there's like a corrugated on the main roof, and there's 5V on the back. We'd like the option just for cost to do either 5V everywhere or asphalt shingle everywhere. 7 is about the windows, the new, so on the front, we're proposing to keep those wood windows. They're in pretty good shape under the porch and protected. For the new ones, we'll match that as close as possible, but with a fiberglass. We'll provide photos, number 8. Number 9 is, was a typo. It's a brick edging on a concrete porch. So I think we'll go back with that. Although it's in poor shape, so it needs to be repaired.
As opposed to doing decking.
Right, no wood decking. And the rest we are good with. We'll provide paint colors and more material spec sheets.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying some things and contextualizing the Sanborn stuff, Sanborn map. Do you have any public comment?
Yeah, this house is a baby doll, isn't it? It's just so cute. And just thank you. Thank you for taking an interest in it. I think mostly the HBF agrees with what the staff had to say about it. The questions about the addition, as Jeremiah said, he's gotten into it and he doubts that it's 1924, but we would like more documentation of that. And indeed would like to see any remaining historic materials like siding under the asbestos to remain and be repaired, especially since this is a contributing property. We really don't want to see the cementitious siding. We support staff's comment for reconsidering the demolition of the rear. And if during the demolition, it's discovered that it is older or original to the structure, then we certainly would like to see it preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No, sir.
All right, we'll bring it back up here for discussion. I think there's some good contextualization from the applicant to help understand their perspective on the back half of the building. Just in terms of materials and number 7, not number 7, I'm sorry, number 5, the cementitious siding. I think it has been my sniff test for this type of stuff is if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, but it lasts 1,000 years, we should allow it. And if you have smooth cementitious siding that looks like smooth pine lap board or smooth cedar or cypress. I don't see how that is any different than allowing AZEC decking on contributing structures or whatever that product was that we did at the Cuthbert House and others. I think that I think it's been a travesty that we've had this obsession with the same species of material for certain projects and certain applications when A, it's just not the same as it used to be, and B, I think the aesthetic is the same, right? You can achieve the same aesthetic with cementitious siding as you can with a pine lap board. And you can also make it last a lot longer. So if we want these projects and these properties in the historic district to last the test of time, then we can honor their legacy and the historic nature by allowing some of these materials. So I am in support of cementitious siding in general, regardless of whether or not it's contributing or not. I just think it needs to, if it was a lapboard sided house before, it needs to be a lapboard sided house now. And I think cementitious siding is fine. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think the applicant's note about the Sanborn Maps footprint compared to today's footprint is interesting. I think maybe documentation of that difference would be sufficient to make the case in a subsequent hearing that it's worthy of demolition. Because that, I didn't notice that when I was reviewing the packet, but that's certainly compelling, I think, to make the case. And I would be supportive of either 5E or shingle. I'm agnostic to those 2 roof materials going on the structure. So I think overall it's a good project. I'm in support of it. I'm in support of the cementitious siding. So if it were me, I would strike number 5. I think for number 8, I don't know why, maybe staff, you can help me understand why there's a request for them to provide photo documentation of the 4x4 posts. Why do we care about that? Or if anybody else has an idea of why we should care about that?
No, it looks like the ones on the Sanborn are 6-inch. If you look at the Sanborn photograph,
Yeah.
they look bigger than the 4-inch that are currently on there, so.
So I'm gonna say you don't need to do number 8. That would be my opinion. I think that's extra work that's not needed. That would be my opinion. I think some of the other things are fine recommendations by staff. I'm curious why there's a desire to reduce the footprint of it, but that's not important to this discussion, so we'll leave that as just a curiosity of mine. So, yep, those are my opinions. What do you think?
I actually agree with you.
Oh, my goodness.
I think it's a charming, sweet little cottage. I don't, oh,
And this is more staff. I agree totally with the.
I think you're.
Sorry, with the hardy or cementitious material. We use it all the time. The only question I'm gonna ask is 3/8 inch versus 5/8. Artisan hardy is 5/8. It has a much, has a more of a proper shadow line, which you'd see in a 3/4 lap. Is that something we lean toward or try to influence when you're using horizontal siding in particular to go to the 5/8? I know there's a cost issue, and I assume that's probably the issue in itself is the additional cost, but that provides you with a very close proximity shadow line that you see with the conventional pine or cypress siding or cedar or whatever. So that would be the only, I'm not suggesting we require that here, but I think that's something the staff should be leaning toward in a lot of these cases. If we're going to allow this, at least have the thickness so that it's more representative of what we're taking off or what we're matching. We're trying to emulate it.
Sure. It's an interesting point. Did you want to make a point? Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to comment. Do you know what the cost difference might be?
It's, no, honestly, I don't. It's not double though. It's more because you have obviously more material. I don't think We've used it when we've had miter corners and things like that, or when we had a little bit better budget. And it is a budget consideration, but I think in some cases, and this may not be the one, but I think because it does satisfy the look, when you compare the artisan to conventional pine from a, painted, it looks very correct. You can read the 3/8 thickness, you can tell from a little closer or even a little farther away, if you will, that it's not the same siding because of the
Mhm.
shadow line, because of thickness. So in some cases, we might want to lean toward that because it does really make a difference visually. As far as the paintability, that's obviously, that's not an issue. The maintenance certainly lower. You can attest this, you can. When you paint the hardy versus painting wood, I mean, it's amazing.
Yep.
The paint will last 10 to 20 years and it won't on conventional.
On the wood, no,
on
right,
wood, yeah.
right.
I had the same idea, so I think it's a good discussion, but, because some of the new fiber cement, it just looks really thin and separates and
Mhm.
it's not wood, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No, it's a good
That's a very good
point.
point.
Okay. Ms. Wilson, do you have any thoughts or comments?
No, I like the point that Grady made on the siding. Also, looking at the Sanborn map, as I mentioned before, it looks like the original posts were 6 inch, so I don't have a problem with them changing those. Otherwise, I think it's a really good project. I know the original porches were wooden and not cement and that sort of thing, so I didn't know if that was something, since he was thinking about wood, it was going back to the original look of, of the structure.
Well, I initially, when I was making my notes reviewing this, did not care about number 9. I was gonna say, I don't care if they go back with, brick edging or if they go with a wooden deck. But the applicant has said that they would leave it cement and, if they're happy, I'm happy, but I agree with you. I think it would be fine to go back with wood.
Yeah.
So if other folks agree, it sounds like we generally agree, maybe we can triangulate on some of these things that are we all okay with cementitious siding? Where applicable?
Yeah, if they cannot save the wood, I have a.
Yeah,
don't have
you
a
said there
problem.
was no wood? No.
Okay, so we can say that we're gonna strike number 5. Unless, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have more to say?
Nope.
I have one before we go to a vote.
Did we cut you off? Did you have? What else did you have?
I think one of the things that I was going to say is that the fact that this is in the northwest quadrant and somebody's willing to actually bring this house back, I think that's one of the biggest things. So, when we talk about things like the cost of materials and things like that, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is really important, that we work with people to, make sure that they can do what we would like them to do.
Sure.
Um,
And it relates to
scare them
what
off.
they did originally
Yeah,
to begin
yeah,
with. Sure,
yeah.
totally.
I mean, this is a big investment for a one
It is.
bedroom, one bath.
And I'm not suggesting for this home that you would require the artisan. This is a conversation for others where you may draw a harder line, if you will. I think that's,
Mhm.
should be discussed. I have one,
I think that's a good
one
point. Yeah,
question
sure.
when it's appropriate to the applicant. Mr. Smith, I think that's your name, right?
Not Maxine.
You're showing a guardrail on the front porch. This photograph, one of the earlier photographs, has no guardrail. And I believe your guardrail height is it 36 inches? Probably 42. It's such a minimal portion. It's below or I would assume it's below the 30 inches that would require a guardrail. Would you consider lowering the height of that or removing it? Does it? It just seems like it's more dominating than it should be on the scale of this house. It's, such almost a little dollhouse scale.
Yeah.
As Maxine said, it's really neat. And we did that on some other homes with the homes were less imposing, if you will, and the lack of the guardrail seemed to be more appropriate than having the guardrail. So I'm not suggesting that we require that in any motion. That's a question,
Yeah.
if you will.
Interesting, you should say, we talked about it. I think it may be just over 30 inches, but I can verify that. And then the other thought was just, it feels a little more private if you're sitting up there.
And I could, I agree, when you're sitting on that porch, it does give you a sense of space. And it may be you just reduce the height to 32 inches or something to mitigate this, to minimize the scale, but still give you that sense of enclosure or that space that you'd want on the front porch.
I think the 36 may be a code, but
If it's not, if the finished floor elevation is less than 30 inches above finished grade, then you're not requiring a guardrail at all.
I get it.
Right. But you're saying you think it might just be above 30? You'd have to check.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is, absolutely, I'm not
But yeah, if it
suggesting,
is,
but
then-
we not apply to the code here. But
Okay.
if you could confirm that, if it's less than 30 net, finished porch level elevation to grade, then you're not required a guardrail. You
Okay.
could lower it to 32 inches, for example.
Or even fewer posts maybe, because it seems like a lot of posts.
balusters, yeah, there's a lot of them.
Well, they're required if it
They
is
have
a
to
code.
prevent
requirement.
6
If it's-
inches.
yeah,
or-
if it's
Porch, I'd say
required,
porch,
yeah.
Inches, yeah.
Yeah. So,
For a baby's head, can't let a baby's.
sorry,
head
I'm playing
there.
architect here, I apologize.
Is that something you would want to make a condition or just? a
No, I
suggestion?
just, I've noticed, and then again, just on this, it just seemed like it's more than it's, that it's.
Yeah.
It's not necessary almost, again, but if it is by code, I'm not suggesting it, just maybe if you can lower the scale, it
Yeah.
just seem like it's more dominating than it should be. Just so I'm mentioning.
I think the board could even give sort of a historic exemption from building code. to-
Well, you decide it's your product, but that's my
Does it-
observation. for
That's,
consideration.
that's interesting.
That's interesting. Does the city want to take on that liability? I don't know. So not making that a condition, but
Not
maybe
making
just
a
some
condition.
food for thought in the conceptual phase. Okay, great. All right, so coming back through the list, number one is just a reiteration of what's been noted. Number two, fine. Number three, we discussed, and that would be maybe you just at the next submittal, you just come back and show, take some pictures or whatever. This is not the same footprint, and there's our justification for why it's not historic. If that's, that is your case or what you're suggesting. Number four, you already addressed, so I don't think that's relevant. Or we could leave that in there, but it's something you've already addressed. Number five, it sounds like we're all okay with striking that. Number six.
I think it'd be very nice if it could be a metal roof. I think, it would actually be more appropriate and give it a little bit of more character, but obviously, financially.
Well, do we want to make it a condition or do we want to just say that we're amenable to either shingle or 5/8?
I think, again, you go back to, let's make it work for these people. So I say,
I'm open to
yeah,
either.
either one's fine.
Okay, so then if we're doing that, then we would just strike out 6 and not make it a condition. Okay. All right, so we'll strike 6. 7, I think we're all in agreement on, is fine. 8, I think is unnecessary, so we're all good with striking 8. All right. Number 9 was about the front porch being cement or wooden. Does the applicant have a preference? No. So we'll just leave that one then. Okay,
There could be brick under that.
it probably is. It probably is.
It was
Yeah.
at our house.
And I think everything else was fine. Cardinal directions as opposed to Blue Jay directions.
Yep.
Was that good?
You're gonna make this one.
Yeah. Well, I have to pass this to make it.
Yeah.
So it would be, approval, I'll tee it up. So the motion would be approval with staff recommendations with the exception of 5, 6, and 8.
So move.
All right, so we've got that motion, a second,
Second,
we got a second. Start here and let's
Aye.
discuss, aye?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, great. So we passed that. I wanted to ask one thing of the staff before we move forward. I was, in my haste, I did not consider on the previous one that they were asking if we could do a what's after, I'm having a brain fart. What's after conceptual? Final, thank you. We just approved it as it was with staff recommendations, which was
It was
the
conceptual. Yeah, they're
Is
gonna
it-
come back.
Is it possible to come back and revisit that for discussion, or is it a done deal? Do we have a parliamentarian somewhere we could ask?
Is it? He wants to make it final.
Well, I don't necessarily want to,
Oh,
I don't,
okay.
but I want to at least have a
Passed it
discussion.
as, you pass it as conceptual, so I think you'd have to reopen the item and
We'd have to
rehear it.
Leave that
You'd
one.
have to rehear it.
Leave it.
I have one
Sure.
comment before we.
Okay, so we'll leave that, we won't do that, and then Mr. Wood says.
Yeah, so for process, and I appreciate all the comments you have on your, for the minutes. But maybe for any edits, email the staff ahead of the meeting
Sure.
so they could address these. And then anything substantive, address it that may, would require a comment from or opposing views from the board.
I like
Will that
that.
help to kind of speed things up a little bit and
Yep.
also not put the staff on notice?
I was not trying to put you on blast, but they were,
It was and not a, and
yes. Well, truthfully, I didn't review the minutes until 2 hours ago,
Fair
so
Fair enough.
it was a little late for me to send an email, but I will attempt to do that, so you're not on blast in front of everyone. Okay, anything else? Steph?
our trip this month